Hmm. We just joyfully step into this unlimited field of possibility. Brand new things are happening right here and right now. And how joyfully we come together to hear a new word, a new sound from a new person. How fun! Thank you for this joyful time that we share. Thank you for coming and making a space for fun. Bless this time, bless this gathering, bless this word, and all of these who have gathered here, for it is good. It is the expansion of the creative consciousness of all that is, and we affirm it together and say, and so it is. Now I'd like to invite you to just take a moment to take a nice deep breath and settle into your body, settle into your breath. And we're just going to settle into the silence for a few moments together. Allowing yourself to bring your focus, your intention, and your attention back into this time and space that we've come together to share. Opening your eyes, relaxing, and becoming fully present now.
Thank you, Treasure. Thank you so much. And now it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Audra Nichole. She and I have been through some ministerial classes together, and she is an extraordinary young woman who is a gifted speaker. And I think that we are absolutely going to enjoy her talk tonight. Audra, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Nan. And thank you, Reverend Stephen, also for allowing me to be here with all of you this evening. It is a special joy and special pleasure in this journey of ministry to get an opportunity to pause in the middle of a week, to come together, to celebrate these principles, to connect, to maybe be inspired. We'll see. So tonight's talk title is The Road to Freedom. Some of you may know that through our global organization, Centers for Spiritual Living, we have monthly themes and we have weekly themes. And our theme this month is One Journey, Many Paths. One Journey, Many Paths. That's what we're talking about this February month. February is also Black History Month. So let's honor that tonight as well. Before we travel down a road to freedom, let's start. Let's start together. What is at the beginning of a road to freedom? If we're taking the road to freedom, chances are there's something in our world that isn't feeling free. So let's pause for a moment, and I'd love for each of you to just think about your own life and think about one area or one scenario that maybe you feel restrained or you feel any ounce of hindrance. Now, maybe that's something to do with a particular relationship. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's home. Most of us here tonight have the honor and unique privilege of living lives of privilege so that we can be here today. And all in all, our problems, as big as they may feel for us individually, for us to pause in the middle of a week, to log on to the internet, to video conference with loved ones from afar, that in itself is a life of privilege. So while we are privileged, there are many of us who don't have those same privileges. And as we think of one journey and many paths, freedom looks so different to each of us. I love this quote that I read this month in the Science of Mind magazine by the amazing Harriet Tubman. Harriet said that she grew up like a neglected weed, ignorant of liberty and having no experience of it. Now, if we just stop for a minute, we know what was going on in that time. So we know what she's saying, at least conceptually, when she says ignorant of liberty. And yet a woman so limited in her freedoms of that time, ignorant of her own liberties, still went on to bring freedom to countless people. Now, if a woman ignorant of freedom can do all of that way back then, the possibilities for those of us sitting here tonight in our warm homes with climate control, comfy clothes, food in our tummies, we can do so much for our own freedom. Now, freedom in our lives, that pain, that restraint. When we think of not having freedom, we think of maybe chains, maybe closed doors. But I think the more subtle hindrances of freedoms are those times when we're going about our life and we feel like we hit a glass wall. What about those moments when we thought we were free or we felt free and then smack? We didn't see that coming. Maybe the road gets pulled out from under us. Maybe something we thought was going to happen doesn't happen. Maybe someone leaves us in the relationship. Maybe someone leaves us on this earth. Maybe we lose a job. Maybe we get some very unexpected news. And in those moments, freedom is not what we feel. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that most of the shadows of this life are caused by standing in one's own sunshine. In one's own sunshine. And how often are we told that our cages of our own making, right? Now, these cages of our own making and these shadows of our own sunshine quite often come from all of the things that we should do. All of the shoulds that we put on ourselves. All of the shoulds that don't belong to us. All of the shoulds that don't feel right in our bones, but we feel obligated to do them anyways. All of those shoulds. We should go to school, or we should get that job, or we should marry that person. We should do this, we should do that. But all the while in our bones, we can feel that maybe that's not right for me. Despite how well-meaning those of us, those who surround us, who should on us, feel, despite all of their well-meanings. How are we shoulding on ourselves? Ugh, doesn't even sound good. You just say to yourself, how am I shoulding on myself? How does that feel in your body? I don't know about you, but I kind of get a visceral feeling of that word that it sounds like. It's just not a pleasant experience. And yet here we are, going about it all the time. So let me give you an example of what I mean. Maybe you have also discovered some things about yourself in this pandemic. I sure know I have. I've learned quite a few things about myself in all kinds of new scenarios. For example, pre-pandemic, my best friend and I, Rev Chris, who's here tonight, we were both, well, actually, I can't speak for her because actually she will tell you that she knew all along. So I will speak for myself. I was under the impression that I was an introvert. Looking back now, turns out I'm not an introvert at all. I'm actually an extrovert. And you can see that extrovertedness in me as an example of when I was living in Carlsbad Village in Southern California, in San Diego. I had this small studio apartment. Now, living in a studio apartment as small can be challenging enough. And yet, this introvert that I thought I was, so introverted that in my studio apartment, over the course of 3 years, I had 3 separate people living with me in my studio apartment. Now, how many introverts do you know would love to have a person? And I'll mind you, no 3 of these people were spouses. They were not sharing my bed and my love and all of these things. They were on the couch, just sharing my very, very small space. I don't know any introvert that would welcome people into their very, very small space. But one of these times, I had this wonderful friend living with me, Val. And in a small studio space, you have to be very conscientious of other people's needs, right? Should you do this? Should you do that? How is it going to affect this person? What are they going to think? What are they going to feel? All of the things. That's a perfect example of maybe when we would justify shoulding on ourselves. Well, one particular night I was having a very, very rough day. And I came home very emotional, very tense, very stressed, very overwhelmed. One of those nights where you just want to be alone in your own space. Like, a beach house for one, let's say. But here I am in a small shared space. I wanted to cry, I wanted to scream, there was nowhere to go. Now, by the time I was at my wit's ends with myself, it was like 11:30 at night. This was this person's home. I couldn't ask them to leave. I had offered this space to them, but I needed to be alone. So all of the shoulds would have told me to just suck it up, deal with it, go to bed, get over it, move on. Tomorrow's a fresh day. But I could feel in my bones that that wasn't going to be enough for me that night. So I said, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I know this might sound horrible, but I need you to leave. It's 11:30 at night. It's cold out. I don't know where you're going to go. I can't solve that for you. You might think I'm a jerk, but I need you to leave. This person was not happy, as you can imagine. They stormed out, slammed the door. They left. I cried. I screamed. I got it all out. I exhaled in my own space. I reconnected. I refueled. I resourced. I recharged to the point that I could feel free again. A couple hours later, they came back. They went to bed. We didn't talk that night. The next morning we wake up. I didn't apologize, but I was open to hearing what their experience was. And they said, oh my God, you're never going to believe what happened last night. I was so angry. I didn't know what to do. All I could think to do was walk. So I just walked. I walked and I walked and I walked and I walked. And then I just sat. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. So I just sat. And a few people came up to me. It was the strangest thing. And we started talking. And they are the most amazing people. And we have the most phenomenal things in common. And we made plans to do some really cool things next week. And if you hadn't have given me your truth and asked me to leave, as painful as that was, and as comfortable as I know it was for you to do, I would have never met these people. And this this next chapter wouldn't be beginning. So I say that to say that so often when we should on ourselves, we are standing in our own sunshine, and not just our sunshine, but the sunshine of those all around us. We're taking away all of the divine moments and opportunities that are reaching even for those around us when we simply follow what is true for us in our deepest places and in our deepest parts. Now, one of my favorite authors is the amazing Anita Morgani. Those of you may or may not have heard of her. She is a Hay House author, and she was discovered by the amazing Wayne Dyer. She had a near-death experience, and she wrote her first book about her near-death experience. It's called Dying to Be Me. Now, these last couple weeks, in the middle of a global pandemic, in the winter, in Colorado, in the midst of ministerial school, in a hectic entrepreneurial lifestyle, there were some dark days, I'm not gonna lie. We all have them. I was having some. So I asked myself, what do you need? What's gonna set you free here? Something is clearly not working. Felt like I was just bumping into glass walls. And I remember the last time I was really struggling. Anita Morjani's book, Dying to Be Me, really, really helped. So I thought, maybe her new book will help. So I looked up her new book, downloaded it, and listened to it. And boy, was my mind blown. If those weren't the exact words that I needed to hear on the exact day, I don't know what was. In the very beginning of this book, Anita talks about how she was having some dark days. And although she knew all of these principles in her bones, and although she had been to the other side and she knew all that there was unconditional love and all that she had to be was herself, she was still struggling. She was still bumping into walls. She was still having dark days. Days where she felt restrained, where her light felt hindered. So she went to the beach and she talked to God. And Spirit was very clear with her. And I want to share those words with you tonight. In her book, she shares with us that the message she received was that our only work is to love ourselves, to value ourselves, and to embody this truth of self-worth and self-love so that we may be love in action. Saying that love in action, that is true service. Service to yourself and service to those around you. So as we begin to wrap up, I remind you, when I first started this evening, I asked you to think of a time or a place in your life right now where maybe you were feeling restrained or hindered. And I would ask you to think, in that particular case, in that area, regarding that scenario, how can you value yourself more? In that situation, in that relationship, in that point of choice, what can you do to love you more? Remembering that freedom looks different to each of us. But also remembering that our only work is to love ourselves. And when we take that time to get quiet, to go within, to find out what in our heart of hearts and in the depth of our bones feels true and right for us, from a place of love, not ego, not pain, not anger, not fear, but from a place of expansion, That's where the chains are released. That's where the glass walls dissolve. That is how we get carried down the road of freedom, to greater heights, to more joy, to more love, to more fulfillment. So this week, the rest of this week, this upcoming week, and this weekend, if you find yourself feeling restrained, if you see a glass wall you've bumped into, my challenge for you is to pause in that moment, to get quiet with yourself, to get honest with yourself. Identify how you can love yourself more in that moment. What could you do that is kind to yourself? To each of you, I consider a friend. And those of you tonight who know me very well know this phrase in all of your being. And I'll share it with those of you tonight who don't. As you go out in this week, my ask of you is that you be kind to my friend who is you. My friend who is Nan, my friend who is Kim, my friend who is Kristen, who is Karen, who is Jen, who is Paula, who is Karen. I ask you to please be kind to my friends. Love them a little more. Listen to them a little more. And feel a little more free this week. I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Audra and Nichole. What a wonderful message. Let's give her some love. Yeah. Love yourself too, darling. This is wonderful. Thank you so much. What a great message tonight. That ought to keep us all warm and toasty through the week. Totally wonderful. So as is our custom, I want to invite us now to celebrate our prosperity. And during this time, I want to give special message in reference to everyone who has contributed and donated to the Center for Spiritual Living in Grants Pass so incredibly generously over the past year to keep us going and to have these activities happen and support our community. So it is our custom. I invite you to take your gift, your time, your talent, your treasure, and just hold it in your hands and place it to your heart. And then just say with me, if you will, we will celebrate our prosperity. And so we affirm, I celebrate and release my gift with love and joy. And you can see it again on your screen. I celebrate and release my gift with love and joy. And so I just want to bless these gifts of time, talent, and treasure, however they may come in, however they flow through you in infinite prosperity. And knowing that these gifts are pure love, pure spirit, pure joy in action, I bless them now as they go forth to prosper and heal and to serve all, everywhere, every corner of the globe as we celebrate and enjoy the divine flow of infinite abundance in our lives. For as we give, so we must receive, and so it is. And we also have a tradition here on our Wednesday night service of lighting the flame of faith for honoring all faiths. And so we'll start that now. So Treasure, I just invite you to light this candle. And if you'll join me with just considering these words. We perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples and all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence, which we call spirit. And fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here today. We light this candle for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light this candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light this candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light this candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light this candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light this candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light this candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light this candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. And we light this candle for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. We light a candle for all those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of spirit in their lives and for the space that we hold for them at this center. And we light this candle for all religions unnamed in this ceremony. And we light this candle especially tonight for the great joy and the great love and the opportunity and the invitation to love ourselves deeply so that we may love others and remain in sacred service. And as is our custom here on the Wednesday night service, I just invite everyone to place their hands over their hearts, and we're going to do a love blast here. And so we're going to allow that infinite divine spirit of love within us to just bubble up, flow to overflowing into our hands before us, filling our very hands. And as we bring them together, 1, 2, 3, we then go whoosh, and we send that love out into our homes, our neighborhoods, our community, across our country, around the globe, and out into the cosmos and beyond the beyond the beyond. And so it is, my friends.